They explain to potential candidates how the Air Force changed their life for the better. Personally, I have had so many incredible opportunities because I joined the Air Force. I encourage every airman, past and present, to tell his or her story. By engaging with society and telling their stories, our airmen from all components of our team can help familiarize the American public with the Air Force. Don't get me wrong, they know of us. They often thank us for our service. You know, when someone sees me in uniform and thanks me for my service, I tell them quite honestly that it is my honor to serve. I consider it a privilege to wear the cloth of our nation. Now, while they know of us, they often do not know us. They don't personally know anyone from the military, and as a result, they often have preconceptions that may be inaccurate or incomplete. Due to a number of factors, including the fact that we have downsized our force, and we have a number of military children growing up and joining the military, our society is more unfamiliar with our military than it has ever been before. A recent poll showed that half of America's youth cannot name the 4 military services within the Department of Defense. Given that fact, I think the odds are extremely low that America's youth will understand the difference between Air Force Active Duty, Air National Guard, and Air Force Reserves. The fact is, we are one team. We are the United States Air Force. As we engage with the American public, we can educate them about all the amazing aspects of being an airman. Through these efforts, the goal is to greatly increase the pool of highly qualified applicants. Often, our recruiters work very hard just trying to make goal. But if we can create a very large pool of potential future airmen, we can shift our focus from just making goal to selecting the absolute best candidates to join our team. Within the Air Force recruiting enterprise, we fully embrace the fact that we are one Air Force with 3 components. And these 3 components are not in competition with each other, but rather they complement one another to make our Air Force a more effective team. When it comes to recruiting, we should keep in mind that our target demographics are not exactly the same. For active duty, 99% of the airmen we recruit are non-prior service. For the Guard and Reserve components, we would like to recruit about 70% prior service and 30% non-prior service. When we're engaging with a non-prior service applicant, we must work to find the best fit in one of the 3 components. As for prior service, all of us need to assist with that recruiting effort. You know, when someone tells me they are separating from active duty, I immediately ask them now if they are going to transition to the Guard or the Reserves. Not if they are going to transition to another component, but rather which one. We want to capture all the experience and training that we have invested in them while they were on active duty. We do this when we transition them into one of our other components. Today is a significant step in the transition to total force recruiting. I know people have talked about this for a long time, but I'm letting you know that we are moving out right now. We need to be aligned on what total force recruiting looks like. That's one of the things that I found fascinating, is that people have different images of it. So I'll tell you how I see it. Our goal is to identify talent in society and then find the right fit in our Air Force, full or part-time, in or out of uniform. So this could mean active duty, Air National Guard, Air Force Reserve. It could also mean officer, enlisted, civilian. And if you're going to go officer route, there's 3 paths: Air Force Academy, ROTC, OTS, and obviously there are other programs for specific requirements such as medical corps, chaplains, and JAGs. But what I want to do is stop recruiting to the Each's and recruit to the Air Force. You know, I said our goal was to identify talent in society. What does that mean? I get asked that often. And what we are looking for is a diverse group of people with physical strength, moral strength, mental strength. People with grit and determination. Physical strength is pretty straightforward. When I say mental strength, I'm talking about people who can think critically, creatively, and collaboratively. Moral strength is doing the right thing, whether someone's watching you or not. It's that internal moral compass that guides our actions. Grit and determination. Those are qualities that will evolve into the warrior ethos we need when these young men and women join our team. You may have noticed I said that we're looking for a diverse group of people. When our CSAP talks about diversity, he calls it the fabric of our Air Force. It's who we are. Well, it's our responsibility to ensure that we attract that diverse force. I actually see diversity as a competitive advantage. Potential adversaries have gained significant technological advantages in recent years. So when we're facing a potential adversary with similar capabilities in combat, our people are going to be our advantage. I've experienced firsthand when I'm facing a challenging situation. If I have a group of people that think just like me, we'll get to a solution pretty quickly. But it's not going to be much different than if I just sat down by myself and thought about it. Now, if I have a group of people that come from different backgrounds, that think differently, it's going to take longer to get to a solution. But I guarantee it will be a better solution because we will have looked at it from different perspectives and different viewpoints. In this country, the military is one of the most respected institutions in our society, and our United States Air Force is second to none. But to remain the premier Air Force in the world, we must continue to recruit highly talented young men and women. To inspire the next generation to serve, we will show them the path to becoming an airman. We will show them how rewarding it is to be part of something bigger than themselves. We'll explain to them the satisfaction that comes from knowing you help protect and defend the freedoms we hold dear. Wherever we go, we will share the stories of our amazing airmen and the heroes that came before us. As recruiters, we are truly Air Force ambassadors. And we'll illustrate what it means to be an airman. We'll live our core values of integrity, service, and excellence. We set the example for others to follow with our unparalleled professionalism and dedication to duty. Graduates, your class is special. You are the pioneers in total force recruiting in this journey we have. I look forward to the day in the future when we no longer reference total force recruiting. The day when we simply reference Air Force recruiting because total force is assumed, and it would be silly to consider recruiting any other way. But the fact is we're on this journey, and all of you are key to this. While this graduating class is comprised of our newest and least experienced recruiters, they are also some of the most educated when it comes to total force recruiting. So graduates, I challenge you. We want you to lead the way in this journey. Be the beacon. Stay involved and share what you have learned. We all need to ensure that we are one team and help make this total force recruiting a reality. Keep the positive energy that you have built up during the course. Be an inspiration for other, more experienced recruiters. You have the unique opportunity to leave your fingerprints on what we are now calling total force recruiting. Remember, our recruiting mission is critical. When we attract the most talented men and women from our society, we build the strongest possible Air Force of the future and help preserve the security of this great nation. Thank you.
Thank you for those inspiring words. So today is a pretty big deal in the Air Force recruiting history. We're here for the recruiting school to stress the importance of public speaking. I'm constantly awed by my peers and the leaders within this flight and their ability to deliver inspiring speeches. Leading up to today, I kept asking myself, what could I say to my 15 recruiting babies? And what could I do to inspire them? What could I tell them to get them ready for their new journey in recruiting and their future in the Air Force? In March, I'll have my 17-year anniversary with the Air Force and the Air National Guard. 11 and a half of the 17 years, I've been in a total force environment. I've never thought of myself as an active duty member or a member of the Air National Guard, but simply as an airman like the majority of in the audience today. We keep saying total force. How's it going to work? Are all the components going to get along? Well, we proved that we could. How can we make this happen? For the past 7 weeks, while the class was in study groups, Master Sergeant Vila and I bounced ideas off of each other, vented, learned from each other, and by the end of it all, we'd come up with a game plan for the next day. He's been an amazing wingman, and for that, sir, I thank you. There was no I'm Air National Guard or I'm active duty. There were just 2 senior NCOs putting in the hard work for our airmen. This leads me to my point. Does that start sounding? Where am I going with this? Core values. That'll be blue for you. So, Master Sergeant Vila and I stand up here as your instructors, but we still have different recruiting badges. All 3 components are very different in the way we work and in our badges. However, we have one similarity, the 3 prongs on the back. Integrity first. More specifically, honesty. Be honest with your applicants. This will promote trust and they'll appreciate it. Humility. Remember, you're no longer that subject matter expert. You're 3 level all over again. You're gonna have tough times ahead of you. On the hard days, lift your chin high and don't be afraid to ask for help. Service before self. Rule following and having faith in the system. Remember, your chain of command is there to support you and guide you. Follow them, their standards, and the rules placed upon you by the Air Force and your component of the Air Force. Excellence in all we do. Personal excellence. Take care of you and your families. If you don't, that'll bleed into your product excellence. Once you're going to be producing our next generation of airmen to take our place. So yes, the prong on our badges are like our core values. However, I see one more thing. I see all 3 components, which make up our total force. I see my recruiting babies. I see my brothers and sisters. But more importantly, I see my Air Force family, our Air Force family. So when you leave here today, I want you to remember what you learned here, the basics. Remember how your component plays into the bigger picture and how we need to feed the fight against our nation's enemies. Remember your core values. Let them guide you in your path to bringing new airmen into the Air Force, Air National Guard, and the Air Force Reserve. Lastly, remember your wingmen. Remember your brothers and sisters. Remember all of us. You are all on the same path. Reach back to each other. If anyone understands your struggles and your challenges that lay ahead, it's your family that you met here, to include your mom and dad. They will be able to provide a listening ear or a helping hand. Keep them close to your heart, like the 3 prongs. And at the end of the day, if we stick together, like all 3 of those prongs, we will succeed. Aim high.
Okay, so I guess I gotta follow General Leavitt and Sergeant Jaramillo. I wondered where my speech went this morning. You guys stole it from me, so glad I made it back up here. But there's a couple things I want to mention as they were vital to the success of the total force endeavor. My leadership team, of course, my awesome instructor staff who's been supportive this whole way, and Mr. Diaz and Miss Morris who always found the way to yes. But today it's really about the students. At the 344 Training Squadron, our job is to produce mission-ready recruiters who make a difference to our nation and our recruiting efforts. When my leadership brought me to their office, they said, Sergeant Vila, we are launching the first ever Total Force class, January 7th, and we want the best instructor to teach it. I said, thanks. I should have waited for him to finish. Chief Daigle said, unfortunately, Sergeant Gavea, Caps, and Guerin are all unavailable, but we have you. So thank you, Chief. I made the best 4th choice there. But let's talk about these awesome Air Force students here, Total Force students. They were made aware of Sergeant Avila is a little senior in age to a squadron chief and commander, and they wanted to make sure I had what I needed to survive this 7-week course. And they brought me gifts every week to make sure I'm good. So I'll share some of those. Some Ensure, make sure I get my vitamins. Some aspirin cream for my back. Some 50 and over 1-a-days. For those rough times on the job, I got some real fit Depends. So, thank you for these awesome gifts. I don't think they love me at all. But thank you. People often ask, what did you do at work today? I reply with, I joined the Air Force 6 times today. And let me tell you, it's exhausting. But I'd like to share with you a few of the stories from these labs that we have to listen to on a daily basis. I didn't even say nothing yet. Sergeant Wilson. During the delayed entry program brief, Sergeant Wilson gave me a used phone, to which he called a DEP t-shirt. I said, "This looks used." He replied, "All my DEPers get used DEP t-shirts. But there's good news. The more DEP calls you attend, the newer your shirt will get." Good dude, good dude. Do anything for you, anything you need, except get you that new t-shirt. Sergeant Miller disqualified me during a sales lab, stated I needed a morale waiver that needed to be sent to the commander for approval. I said, "Will the commander have morale when she's approving it?" The commander has lots of morale. For you civilian, it's morals waiver. Sergeant Ream. I got like 6 pages on you, so here. I told him during a sales lab, "You got real cool tattoos." He replied, "When you're ready, Billy, I don't have any problem drawing your tattoos for you." You know, excellence in all we do is different for everybody. He did give a great impromptu speech on Miley Cyrus in which he believes she was abducted by a UFO and it changed her. He listens to her music loud in the gym because it's so terrible and it makes him work out harder. And who else do we have? Last one. Okay. So this is for Sergeant White. Sergeant White. During a phone lab, he tells me, in this room, I'm way off because you're Sergeant White. During a phone lab, he tells me I'm about to check my regulation. So now's the time to go use the bathroom, check your Facebook, heck with it, go get some snacks if you wanted. I disappeared for 20 minutes. I didn't come back, and he was wondering where I went. I'm like, you can't just release an applicant to go take off for about 20 minutes. But he did give a great rendition of Whitney Houston's "I Will Always Love You." That was Sergeant White singing in the fan. 7 weeks, we have to do that. Although we had some laughs, it's time to recruit. In this room, we have the first female fighter pilot. We also have the first total force class. I'd like to share a quote from the first African-American baseball player, played for the Brooklyn Dodgers, Jackie Robinson. "A life is not important except in the impact it has on other lives." I learned that quote my first year on the bag in 2009, and it stays with me till this day. The Air Force provided us with some amazing opportunities. Now we must impact the lives of these men and women to serve and give them opportunities they never knew existed. So good luck to the first Total Force class.